Hey everyone, welcome back to Early Access. Today we're diving into a video that's going to have some huge news that you may or may not know about. And I tell you one thing, it's got the Elder Scrolls community buzzing about it. That's right, we're talking about the highly anticipated remake of the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. Now, whether you're a longtime fan of the series or new to the world of Tamriel, you're going to want to stick around for the details I've got here. So without further ado, let's get into it. First up, let's talk about the announcement itself. Rumors about Oblivion Remake have been floating around the internet for years, really, but things kicked into high gear recently when credible leaks and industry insiders hinted that a full remake was in development. Now, this was later supported by a supposed internal roadmap from Bethesda's parent company, ZeniMax, which outlined future projects. Now, touching on the leaks real quick, you might remember back in the end of 2023 when we were still waiting on news about Elder Scrolls 6 and Starfield. The FTC and Microsoft had a major case on the purchase where Xbox was trying to buy. Now, during that, the documents from the FTC were actually shared without redactions, which is kind of odd. Usually something that serious, especially in a court case of that type, you think would have redactions, but it did not. And of course, lucky for us, the internet being the internet, got revealed on X or Twitter with a lot of information. With those documents, we found out that Xbox and Bethesda were working on a new Doom game, Dishonored 3, obviously the remake of Elder Scrolls 4. The new Doom game, of course, being called Doom the Dark Ages, was actually slated to come out in May here. The leaked documents also talked about a remake of Fallout 3, or remaster, however you want to say it. Now, one could argue, looking at this, that the leak did not fulfill itself, because we see a lot of fiscal 2021, 2022 years of games that just never made it there. But to be fair, a lot of those games did make it or are currently slated, they're just delayed for whatever reason. As you can see in the image, fiscal year 2022, they had the Indiana Jones game, which didn't come out till just the end of 2024. But pending a lot of these do come to fruition, I am excited for other games like Ghostwire, Tokyo Sequel, and Dishonored 3. But I digress, I'm getting ahead of myself here now. But with all that being said, we are still waiting on an official announcement from Bethesda, which is kind of odd, especially when some insiders and leakers say they do expect this game to come out mid-year, possibly around June. You think by now we would have had something as far as an announcement. So where do we go from here? Well, speculation suggests that the project might be in collaboration with an external studio to give the main Bethesda team room to focus on the Elder Scrolls 6, which is still possibly anywhere from 2 to 6 years away at the minimum. And with that being said, could this mean a full, faithful recreation of Oblivion with updated visuals, gameplay, engines, and all that good stuff? Speculation says yes, but only time will tell. Now, since we don't have anything concrete from official Bethesda announcements, only speculation, I think it's a good time to talk about what we'd like to see in this remake. And if I don't mention something here that you'd like to see, please let me know in the comments. Share the word. Love to hear from all of you guys. But the first thing I think, the obvious one, is the best thing to see would be modern graphics. I think that goes without saying, being that the game is nearly 20 years old now. At the time in 2006 when Oblivion launched, it was really groundbreaking for that time. But let's be real, the potato-faced NPCs haven't aged gracefully. I for one cannot imagine just looking at Cyrodiil's lush forest, sprawling cities, and of course those infamous Oblivion gates brought to life with today's cutting-edge technology, a new Unreal Engine, all the bells and whistles. The second enhancement I'd love to see would honestly be the combat system. It's another area that's ripe for improvement, and Oblivion's mechanics were solid for their time, but feel clunky compared to modern RPG standards nowadays. A remake could introduce smoother animations, more dynamic spellcasting, and refined melee combat. And how about a revamp of the Radiant AI system? At the time in 06, it was revolutionary, but a modern new iteration could make Cyrodiil feel truly alive, even more so than Skyrim. Thinking about that, that game is nearly 15 years old itself. One thing I really would like to see not change, and this is kind of silly, I guess, but it's the minimally intrusive HUD that was in Oblivion. If you played Oblivion, you remember that its HUD is iconic for its medieval-inspired design, while still maintaining a modernization that would be welcoming. I can't speak for every player, but I know me personally felt a sense of freedom and discovery when playing the game without having to worry about cluttered interface that could spoil the experience. At the same time, I do feel like there should be some options to let the player control what they want on the HUD or how they want it to appear. From the condition icons to floating quest markers, I think that freedom of choice for the player will be very welcoming. The next thing on my wish list would really be the hands-free magic and hotkeys. Binding the player's character's hands to a hotkey or button in Skyrim was a fascinating design choice and one that added a great amount of immersion. However, those same players in Skyrim who will go back to play Elder Scrolls 4 would probably appreciate that its dedicated hands-free spell slots system was available to them, even while wielding a two-handed weapon or shield. And at the time, that was huge. I mean, sure, Skyrim had a powers button that acted as a hands-free option for a once-per-day ability, an example, shouts, but this still denied paladins, magical archers, claymore-wielding spell swords their playstyles. So I think to keep that in the game or enhance it would only be a win for everybody. And probably the biggest one that I would like to see them keep or enhance in Oblivion would be the hard-earned ascent through different guild ranks. Now, maybe you never got to play Oblivion or Skyrim was your first chance at taking on the RPG of Bethesda's great worlds, but Oblivion really made you work for those guild ranks. For example, in Skyrim, the Dragonborn would become the leader of the College of Winterhold in no time without even knowing any real spells because of the progression system. Now, it wasn't necessarily a bad thing, but it did take some of the reward away from it. And at the time, Oblivion did cause some friction with players because it really made the ascent through the Mages Guild or Thieves Guild dependent on skill level or task completed, so it did frustrate some people. But in turn, the ascension came with a huge sense of accomplishment, which, if you're a fan of any RPG game, from God of War to anything, really, the harder it is for something to be done, the more rewarding it is at the end. Skyrim's questline factions just felt rushed. Oblivion's didn't. They felt rewarding. So I hope that stays in the game and is enhanced in any certain way, just to bring something new to returning players, but something fresh to new ones. Now, moving away from that, making any kind of remake or remaster is obviously going to be challenging. One major concern I have, and I'm sure fans are having too, is staying true to the original's charm while updating the game for modern audiences, similar to some of the points I was just making. Oblivion's quirky NPC dialogue and sometimes unintentional humor are a part of what made it so beloved. Will a remake or remaster preserve that, or will it risk losing the magic in pursuit of a polish? I, for one, hope they keep those quirkiness in there, but definitely hope they get rid of the potato faces. Then there's still the question of monetization. In recent years, some remakes and remasters have really faced criticism for microtransactions or cutting corners. I, for one, and fans are hoping Bethesda and any collaborating studio that may be working on this avoid these pitfalls. After all, the last thing we really want is nostalgia to hit us just to be overshadowed by unnecessary add-ons. I can't really think of a single game that has paid dividends for. I mean, you can even look back at Star Wars Battlefront 2 and how EA just took a shellacking online for microtransactions. Now, talking about fan excitement, depending when you're watching this, the Xbox Developer Direct was just yesterday, and we got no word about Oblivion. That was pretty disheartening, especially if we think what the insiders expect, that the game will come out this year, sometime mid or even late year. You think we would have got an official announcement with the Developer Direct. I, for one, thought we would get something at the Game Awards end of last year, but to no avail, we did not. And the reason I really wish they would make this announcement, well, two reasons. One, to let all of us know it is coming officially. And two, the modding community. If you've played any Bethesda game from Skyrim, Starfield, Fallouts, any of them, you know that the modding community works their tail off and should get way more credit than they do for the add-ons that they put into the game. They really make the game live years longer than anybody could expect. I mean, Todd Howard in Starfield talked about the modding community was going to be a major focus for them because they knew how important they were. But also talking about the modding community, this is the one part that kind of disheartens me about the Oblivion remake. If you do play any kind of modding games through Bethesda, you know that they recently had a hiccup with revamping the Fallout 4 system, where it had to make Fallout London kind of delay themselves and go back to the drawing board on some things. Definitely disheartening because that add-on has been worked on for years, almost as a standalone game, and I, for one, was looking forward to really diving into that great story. I mean, they put hours and hours of voice acting time into that, so I hope it does come out sooner than later. But bringing that into attention, I'm talking about Sky Oblivion. If you've been anywhere on the internet looking up anything Elder Scrolls, Sky Oblivion has crossed your plate. And as of last checking, it is slated to come out this year. So, would a remake or a remaster mess with that? I don't think so, because I think Oblivion's remake or remaster would be on a totally different scale. It would have nothing to do with how Sky Oblivion is played, so I think they still would be separate entities. My worst fear is that I don't want to see the people behind Sky Oblivion or even any other modding community member that's been keeping Oblivion in line with graphical overhauls and gameplay improvements to be lost in the shadows. Truthfully, though, it will be interesting to see how that all pays out with Remake incorporates into taking inspiration from these fan-made efforts. Hopefully they use some. So in closing, I hope this video did help you with any information I brought to light. Maybe you knew a lot of it, maybe you didn't, but that's really all I got. Everything we know and hope for the potential remake of Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. I mean, what do you think though? Are you excited to see Cyrodiil reimagined, or do you have concerns about how Bethesda will handle the classic? Please let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with all things, not just Elder Scrolls, but anything upcoming games. That's why we're called Early Access, so I try to give you as much up-to-date information as humanly possible. But until next time, hope your travels in Tamriel be epic. Take care.